Hello and welcome to the Voice of Intuition podcast. My name is Susan Jane and I believe that trusting your intuition is the best way to live your life with meaning and purpose. Each week you will hear about how you can connect, develop and trust your intuition through the wonderful array of guests we have on the show and my own personal experiences. Join me to understand how your intuition can guide you towards a life full of meaning and loving purpose. Hello and welcome to the Voice of Intuition podcast. My name is Susan Jane and I am your host for the podcast. Now today we've got a very special guest on. His name's Jai. He's a personal trainer and he's an Aussie as well. So he's from Australia. And why I've got Jai on is that he experienced a near-death experience. He went through that. But it wasn't so much about going through it. It's about his age. He was only 27 when he had this. And actually, when I think about it, I was only about that age as well. Maybe that's a bit of a catch there. But his story is amazing, how he has gone through all this. And what I want to do is get a really good understanding of what he experienced with the near death, because it wasn't until 20 years later that I realized that I experienced a near death experience. And it's only because I read about it or heard about it from other people that I sort of went, well, you know what, that sort of happened to me. And that's why I want to get his take on it, because you start reflecting on your life. You may find you've experienced something like this as well. But let's welcome Jai onto the show. Hi, Jai.
Hi, Susan. How are you going?
I'm going really good. It's lovely to hear an Aussie voice on here too, because we have a lot of American guests, so it's really nice.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. So, Jai, let's get a little bit of an understanding of your general story about your life and where you've come to, how you've got to where you are. And then I want to go a bit deeper into what happened and your near-death experience. So tell us a little bit about you first.
Yeah, well, after I left high school, I got into the IT industry. So I was born in 1980. So around that 1998 mark is when the IT sort of world just boomed and there was a lot of opportunities. So I ended up falling into an IT career, which I had zero interest in at the time. And it was just an opportunity that I took advantage of. That ended up leading into a 13-year career and had a lot of great times over that period. And but towards the end of it, it started to sort of burn me out. And, it wasn't really my passion or my purpose or, why I felt like I was here on this earth to do. And the last sort of 4 to 5 years, it was really, becoming a bit of a burden on me. And I just wasn't enjoying it at all and wasn't enjoying my life at all, really. And then my health started to take a decline during that time as well, where I just made bad decisions on a day-to-day basis with my general habits and well-being. And then eventually I took a turn where I had a cardiac arrest, and this is where the near-death experience comes in, because it turns out I had a problem with my heart, and that led to a cardiac arrest and a coma and all this crazy stuff, and then heart surgery. And then I came out of that with a totally different mindset and a totally different perspective on life and my purpose, and my intuition just sort of activated at that time. And then I realized, I had that intuitive feeling that that I needed to change everything. And so something that was really strong for me that was coming through at that time was that, my health is my priority and my health is the foundation of everything. And so I really had to change that. And so I decided to get into the health and fitness industry and to help myself and to help other people who were also suffering from, certain types of illnesses to, just improve their lives, because I was in that hospital And I was in, I remember when I was waiting for my heart surgery, and I was in this cardiac ward, and there were all these men in the room, maybe 8 or 9 men, and they were all very unhealthy. They were overweight. They had these big bellies, and you could just tell that they weren't taking care of themselves or hadn't taken care of themselves. They were in their generally their 50s and 60s, and they were all waiting for like major surgeries, like triple bypasses and all sorts of crazy stuff. And the psychologists were coming into the room and having therapy sessions with them and essentially preparing them for death. And it was quite shocking to me. And so in that moment, I just had this realization that prevention is the cure. And so I've dedicated my life to that ever since then. And so after I healed myself, that was my first goal, was to heal myself, and then to get into a lifestyle and a career where I can help other people. And so I became a personal trainer and a life coach. And then I started a business and opened up a gym. And now I'm doing online coaching. And so one thing led to another. I've been doing this for 13 years now, and I've been able to help hundreds upon hundreds of people to transform their lives, transform their habits, and just really reverse the damage that they've done over many years of their life and save their lives, really. And so it's been very rewarding, and it's been just following that intuition, which has always led me down the right path, which has been really interesting, because prior to that whole experience with my health, I really didn't feel like I had that intuitive insight or that intuitive connection. I think we all have it, but I just wasn't really tapped into it. And ever since then, it's just been like my driving force almost, where previously I would second guess myself and question everything and procrastinate. And whereas now something pops into my mind and it's like, this is what I need to do. And then I just go ahead and do it. And it always works out to be great. So that's kind of like the very short summary of what's happened over the last 20 odd years. And so where I am today.
Oh, that's amazing. So I want to go back into the near-death experience then, and what you went through and what happened, because like I said at the intro, I wasn't aware that I knew weird stuff was happening, and this weird shit was happening is what I looked at it as. But I didn't know what it was until I started reading books. Whereas nowadays we've got podcasts, so we can share these experiences and people can get a better understanding of what they may have experienced. So take us back. You're heading up to your 27th birthday type thing. What are your habits? What are you doing? What's going on? And then walk us through this experience.
Yeah, so at that time, so I was already 27. I was turning 28. So this happened in September of 2008, and I was turning 28 in November of that same year. So at that time, I was working my IT job, my 9 to 5, not happy. I remember I used to wake up in the morning, my alarm would go off, I'd hit the button on my alarm, I'd put my feet off the edge of the bed onto the ground, and my palms would go straight into my eyes, and I would say to myself, I got to do this shit again. And
Yeah.
it was, in hindsight, it was depression. I didn't acknowledge it, or I didn't really, identify it at the time, but I was depressed. And so that led me to just seeking pleasure constantly, anywhere and in any shape or form that I could get it. And so that made my habits sloppy. So I was eating a lot of bad food. I would go to McDonald's maybe 3, 4 times a week and just consume massive amounts of calories and just basically just numb myself out with junk food. I also used to take drugs, just recreational drugs. Like a lot of my friends at that time would like to go out and party and take, party drugs, and I'd get in on that. And then alcohol. I wasn't a daily alcohol drinker and I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was a binge drinker. So I'd go out on the Fridays and Saturday nights and I'd just get pissed. I would just I'd drink, 10 drinks in one night and just be off my head. And then I'm recovering for the entire weekend. And it was such a bad cycle because I'd go out, say, on Friday night or Saturday night, drinking all this alcohol, getting drunk, having a great night, so to speak. And then the next day, I'm just feeling like absolute shit for the entire day. So what am I doing to make myself feel better? I'm going to McDonald's, I'm eating junk food, I'm sitting in front of Foxtel and just watching movie after movie, sitting on my ass doing nothing. My body was trying to recover from the damage that I've done to it. And I'm just consuming sugar and fat and carbs, and I'm just trying to make myself feel better however I can. Next thing you know, the whole weekend's done. I'm waking up on Monday morning again, putting my freaking palms in my face going, not this shit again, working throughout the whole week to just go back and do this thing again. So I was in this terrible cycle. My weight was gaining. So I went up to 92 kilos. To put that into perspective, I'm 80 kilos now. So I was 12 kilos heavier. And, it was just getting worse and worse. And so that was kind of like the lifestyle I was in. And at the same time, I remember prior to the cardiac arrest happening, I was looking for a solution. I was looking for a way out. I wasn't just sort of like doing nothing about nothing. I was in my mind. I was like, I need to change. I need to change. I remember thinking that, and I remember looking for opportunities. Like I always wanted to own my own business, and so I would always look at different business opportunities in terms of like I would buy the Businesses for Sale magazine, and I'd go through and I'd look at what businesses I could potentially step into, and kind of like just to make that change. But again, I didn't have that intuitive direction that came later. So everything that was coming up was like, oh, I don't know if that'd work, and I don't know if that'd work, and nothing was really my passion. And so that's kind of like the rut I would say I was in. And I see so many people are in a similar situation, and maybe not as severe as mine, where they're consuming, drugs and alcohol, but and lots of bad food, but nonetheless, to their own degree, I see the patterns now because I've been through that. And so that's what I really like to try and help people to overcome, is to shake off those patterns, change that perspective, get that empowerment in their life to say, or in their mindset to say that I can turn my life into anything that I want it to be. I don't need to be trapped by, I call it the golden handcuffs, where you're in a cushy job, you got a good income, things are going well on paper, and you're scared to leave that because you don't want to walk away from that money. It's the uncertainty, it's the fear, it's the doubt, it's the self-confidence. And I didn't have the qualities that I needed, or I hadn't at least activated the qualities that I needed in terms of the courage, in order to let all that go, and close that door in order for another door to open. So it's a huge
And
perspective shift.
yeah, and the thing is with that, Jai, if you don't do it voluntarily, it will happen not so voluntarily. um,
Exactly.
and yeah, and I can see that people do get into that rut. And I see my partner doing the same thing. He gets up and goes, "Oh, I don't want to go to work, but I've got to do it." And I sort of think to myself, well, find something else that you want to do. If you feel that that's what your job is, then make your out of job life better so you can enjoy it. You can get a balance.
Mm.
But unfortunately, like what you do, or what you did, I should say, is that they tend to turn to alcohol or drugs or something else, some other pleasure that is false, and it's not actually helping them because it's not good for them. So yeah, I totally get that. So okay, so you were sort of ignoring, you were getting intuitive messages because you bought magazines that would actually help you along. So you
True.
were getting the messages, you just weren't aware of it. So okay, let's keep going. Where's your catalyst?
Well, so, and yeah, you're right. Actually, I was getting those messages, and I didn't have the courage to act on it. And I think that was really the determining factor, is that I didn't have that faith and that belief in myself. And then so, one thing led to another, and I'm out one night. It's my good friend's birthday. We're out drinking like we normally do. That's a Saturday night, and this was the night before I had cardiac arrest. And then the next morning, I had scheduled in with my friends to go to a local basketball court and play some basketball. I grew up playing basketball; it's been my thing, and so we had this the court booked out for a 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Just run around, muck around, play. So I'm there, and I'm playing basketball with my friends. I'm hungover, and I'm pushing myself quite a bit. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm in the moment, and my heart just starts to go irregular and erratic. And so I pull myself out, try and relax, calm down. And, the sweating isn't stopping even, after I've settled down, when it should have. The heart rate isn't coming down like it would normally come down. So I'm feeling really weird. So I go home, I have a shower, try and relax, have something to eat, try to meditate, tried all these different things to try and stop this feeling of my heart going wild, and nothing that I could do would make it go away. So I'm just relaxing, freaking out at the same time, and then relaxing, praying to God, relaxing, freaking out, relaxing, and then I had dinner at my brother's that evening with my family. So I go over to my brother's, and we're having dinner, and then my family sees me, and they're like, you're off. Like, what's going on? And then so I told them how I'm feeling after I played basketball, blah blah blah, and they're like, oh, we got to go to the hospital. And then I was like, oh no, like that wasn't even like nowhere. That wasn't even on the radar for me. I was like, oh God, no, like I'm not going to hospital. Going to go sit in ICU for 5 hours. Like it's just not going to happen. And then and so they were trying to convince me, and then I was like, nah, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. And then so my mum ends up calling our family doctor, and she told the doctor, like, what's going on. And then our doctor said, look, if there's anything that you have concerns about your heart, then you should just go straight to the hospital and get it checked out. So then she comes back and she's like, I just got off the phone with the doctor, and she said that we should go to the hospital. And then I was like, oh, and I thought she's not going to let up. So I literally like did it to put my mum's mind at ease. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, they're not going to be able to help me, but let's go. So we go over to the hospital, and because it was related to my heart, I didn't have to wait. They just put me straight in, took me into ICU or wherever they put you. And so I'm in there, and then um, they're trying to assess what's going on. They think I'm on drugs, so they're asking me, "What have you had? What drugs have you had? We want to know. We need to know. And we can't help you otherwise." So I'm trying to convince them that I haven't had any drugs, and that this just happened after playing basketball. And so they just flat out didn't believe me, and maybe it was because I was young and whatever. So then they asked my family to leave the room, and then my family left, and then they said, look, your family are gone now. You can tell us the truth. We won't tell them. Just let us know what you've had. And then I was like, all right, look, that's the last time you're going to ask me this question. You need to help me. This isn't helping. I told you the truth. I haven't had anything. You need to freaking do something. I'm starting to get really anxious now. And they're like, okay. They finally believe me. And they said, look, we can give you this thing. It's via a needle. It's like a drug, basically, where it stops your heart and it starts your heart again. It's for people that have an arrhythmia issue. And we can give you that. And hopefully that would, stop this thing from happening. And then I was like, do what you got to do. I cannot make decisions right now. I need your guidance, basically. And they're like, okay, well, if you give us permission, we'll do it. And then I said, let's go. So they put this drug in me, and it's funny because they're like, what drugs have you had? And then their solution is to give me a drug.
Yeah.
And it turns out that that particular thing had a complete adverse reaction. It did not help the problem at all. And I went into a coma almost straight away after having that drug. And so now I'm in a non-responsive coma, which lasted for 8 minutes. I've got a ventilator down my throat because I'm not even breathing for myself. Yet my heart rate is still doing this wild, intermittent, rapid, crazy heart thing. And this goes on for 8 minutes. And then after 8 minutes, I guess my heart just couldn't handle it anymore, and it flatlined. So now I've gone from an 8 minute non-responsive coma to clinically dead for 3 minutes while they're figuring out what the hell to do with me. So they get the paddles out and they defibrillate me. The first time they gave me a shock and it did nothing. And then they gave me a second shock, and then I jump up out of the bed, and I didn't obviously realize that I had a ventilator down my throat. So I was just choking, and because now I'm wide awake, literally like came up like this, popped up, and I remember I felt like I was projectile vomiting everywhere. That's what I literally thought I was doing. But really, I'm just choking on this damn tube that's all the way down into my trachea. So my instinct, and I don't even remember doing it, but my instinct was I just grabbed this thing and I just ripped it out and threw it across the room. And then everybody just lost their shit because that's very, very dangerous to do. The trachea is very sensitive. If it gets torn, that means you got to go in for all this surgery, and it just rah, 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 bad news. So they freaked out about that. So as soon as I did that, everyone kind of like lost it. And I remember this nurse, this big man, he put his massive hands on my chest and he just slammed me back down onto the bed. And then he's like, you just ripped a ventilator out of your throat. We need to x-ray your trachea to make sure you haven't torn it, blah, blah, blah. This could kill you or whatever. So then they get the heavy x-ray blanket. They throw that blanket on me. I just remember the weighted blanket hitting me, and then they're x-raying me. And then like a minute goes by, and then everybody's calm, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're all good, you're all good. And then I was like, okay, sweet. And then I remember at that time checking in with myself and saying to myself, is my heart doing that weird thing? And then I kind of like checked in, and then I was like, no, I feel normal. And then as soon as like I had that realization, I was like, I'm okay, I'm gonna be okay. So then I just totally relaxed, and I was like, I just didn't give a shit about anything else. I was like, I'm good now, I'm fine. And I just remember being so tired, the most tiredest feeling that I've ever had in my entire life, to the point where I couldn't even barely open my eyelids. Like I'd have my eyelids open for 10, 15 seconds and I'd have to close them again because they just felt so heavy, and I was just drained on every level. And I don't know if it was from the electric shock, if it just like, I don't know, but but that's how I felt. And then so I'm there overnight in ICU. I just pass out. I have the best night's sleep that I've ever had. They got an oxygen mask on me. I wake up the next morning and I realize, like, holy shit, I'm still in this friggin' hospital. That wasn't a dream. That actually happened. And then there was a nurse walking by, and I was like, I flagged her down because at this point, I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, I got to go to work. It's Monday morning. So, and I felt like on top of the world. And so I flagged down this nurse, and I was like, hey, I was like, I need to get out of here. Can you help me get out of here? And then she laughed. She literally laughed at me. And then she's like, you're not going anywhere. She's like, do you remember what happened last night? And then I was like, kind of, but not really. And so she filled me in. And that's when like my memory started to come back, when she's like, we gave you this thing, and then you went into a coma. You had a non-responsive reaction. Yeah, you had an adverse reaction, and then you had a cardiac arrest, and then you were clinically dead, and then we defibrillated you, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I'm just like mind blown at this point. I'm like, but I feel so great. Like, this is bizarre. And then, and so I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'm just waiting. And so every day they were just taking my blood, and they were just like monitoring my heart with the ECG machine, and just like basically keeping a close eye on me. They said, we don't want you to leave until we know what's going on, because this could happen again. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, so fair enough. And then 4 days go by, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then this cardiologist comes in, and he sits on the edge of my bed, and then he's like, okay, Jai, we think, this is how he said it, he goes, we think we know what's wrong with you. And I'm like, okay, good certainty. He goes, we think you have this very rare heart condition that you've probably had your whole life but has only become a problem now, and it's called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, and it's an additional electrical pulse in your heart that was ignited under pressure, under stress, under certain circumstances. And what that did was it created a second response, or a second heartbeat. So you had almost like two heartbeats happening at once. And then he said, so that created an arrhythmia issue. And then you weren't getting the blood flow and everything that you needed. So then your heart rate kept elevating to try and regulate itself. And then you went into a cardiac arrest. And he goes, so we can do, you got two options. We can either put you on medication for the rest of your life, or you can have heart surgery and we can fix it and you don't have to be on medication. And once it's done and you're all good. And then I was like, okay, well, they both sound shit, but I thought, I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life, worrying about this thing if it's going to come back. So I thought maybe heart surgery is the best option. And so I opted for that. And this is where all of the courage sort of activated within me. And so I opted for the heart surgery, but I said, it has to happen ASAP, because I can't have this hanging over my head. Like, heart surgery? Are you crazy? Like, what the hell? I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. And then now you're telling me I need heart surgery and I've got this heart defect and all this crap. And so they're like, okay, well, we'll try and get you in as soon as possible. And so I ended up going into a private hospital and paying extra money just to get it done faster, because I didn't want to wait. And so I go in there and I do this surgery. And then there was like, basically it took me 3 months to heal from that. So they did the surgery. I went home. I recovered for 3 months physically, and then emotionally I just kept on going. It took me a long time to really build my confidence back up. In that 3 months I didn't do any exercise. I hardly moved my body. It was very, very bad time, really. It was just a crappy time. And then I go back to work. And then so I go back on a Friday. I'll start on a Friday, my first day. Everyone's going to want to ask me questions and stuff. And then I'll kick it in on the Monday. So I go to work on the Friday, have a good day, just relaxing, talking to everybody. I come home that afternoon, heart surgeon rings me, Jai. Um, the ECGs that we've been doing are showing, like, they're basically showing that we didn't fix the problem and we need to go in and do the heart surgery again. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm just getting over this shit, and now you're telling me we've got to go through it all again. And he's like, I'm really sorry. He goes, had you not been through all of the experiences that you've been through, he goes, I would potentially maybe take a risk and keep monitoring you. He said, but because like of everything that you've gone through, I just think it would be better if we do this. He goes, it will be exploratory surgery, and if the problem is there, which we think it is, then we'll fix it. But if it's not there, then it's just pure exploratory, and then it's all good. So I just said, yeah, let's do it, because I didn't want it hanging over my head. So at that point, that was probably the lowest point in my life that day. And that's where I really felt like I took like a turn to the negative, and I thought to myself, this is something that I'm not going to be able to beat. I'm not going to survive this surgery. I thought that I was destined to die young. All of these things, these belief systems were starting to enter. And so I told my family, and they were like, oh my God, they couldn't believe it. And so then I said to so then I remember I got off the phone, I walked upstairs, I got in the shower, and I just let all of my emotions come out. So I was crying, I was just letting everything pour out, all of that energy, all of that, the why me, all this, like everything, I just let it come out. And then while I'm in the shower, I said to myself, you know what? I can't live like this for because I'd had the surgery, the second surgery I'd booked in, and it was, again, I was like, ASAP, ASAP. And then he's like, we can do it in 6 days time or 7 days time or something. And I was like, all right, book me in. And then I said to myself while I was up there in the shower, I said, I can't feel like this for the next 7 days, wondering if I'm going to live or die. I said to myself, when I turn this shower off, I'm not going to think about it. I've made the commitment. I've booked myself in to have this surgery. It has to be done. It's either going to kill me or it's going to save me. God willing, I got this is just my path at the moment, and this is where I'm at, and this is what I have to own. And so I kept the shower running for a little bit longer. I just let it all come out a bit more, put my hands on the shower tap, and I was like, all right, are you ready to cut this off? And then these emotions, and just forget about it until, you're walking into that heart surgery door. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. So then I turned the shower off, and then literally as soon as the water stopped, bam, I just neutralized my emotions, walked downstairs, went to see my family. And then I said to them, look, I got this booked in. I don't want to talk about it. Don't ask me any questions about it. I don't want to ponder on it. I don't even want to think about it. I'm just going to treat every day like it's a normal day. And if the thought comes into my head, I'm just going to put it out of my head. And I just want to be neutral about it, because it has to happen. And what comes of it will come of it. And so be it. And they're like, yep, got it. Sounds good. They respected that. So we didn't speak of it for the entire week. And then the day came. And then I remember I was in the car, and we're driving to the hospital. And in my head, I'm like, just another day, just another drive, just another, don't even worry about it. Just like, don't even think about it. So I did that. And then next thing you know, I'm in the hospital bed. I'm just about to get, rolled into the theater room. The heart surgeon comes out, and he's like, all right, Jai. He had his clipboard, and he's like, we need to go over the risks. And I was like, dude, you got me here a second time. I don't even want to fucking hear the risks. I said, just sign it off and let's get this shit done. And he's like, yeah, okay, no worries. So, carted me in. And then I remember just, putting the mask on, the anesthesia went into my body, countdown from 10, bam. Next thing you know, I wake up in recovery, and they're like, Jai, you're all good. Everything's done. It's all sorted. You're going to make a great recovery, and everything's going to be perfect. And then I was just so relieved, so on top of the world after that. I recovered, got out of hospital. It took me another 3 months to recover, like physically again from that. And then the emotional recovery took a little bit longer. I would say like a few years probably. And then that's really when all of the weird stuff started happening. That's when it was after that second recovery, when the intuition was just through the roof, when like it was like that part of my life was finally over, and now it was time for the next stage. And so that's when I started to get the insights and started to really think about what I wanted to do with my life. And everything, as I say, was intuitive based, and it was just like, this is what we're doing, then we're doing this, then we're doing this. And I'm just like, yep. Like I'm talking to myself, yep. And I did not second guess anything. And kind of like my life just took off from there.
Okay, stop. Because the story is absolutely amazing. But I do want to sort of say a few things. And I've just made some notes while you were talking.
Yep.
One of the things you said At the very beginning, you said you didn't have faith in yourself. You didn't feel you may have been getting those messages, but you didn't feel you had the courage or the faith in yourself to take it forward. And I wanted to bring that forward because that's the time when a life coach or a coach is the best time to engage, when you're feeling like that, because a coach will actually be able to give you that courage, or they can support you with the courage, and they can support you with different things there. And I just wanted to put that forward, because that people don't realize. I mean, sometimes I think that I won't get a coach because my life's pretty crappy at the moment, and I'm too embarrassed to get it. But that's when we need a coach. That's when we need somebody who can turn around and say to you, "Hey, you've got this. I'm here to help you, and you've got this." And if you've got that support, you'll be able to get through that better. That was one of the things I wanted to mention. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and you aren't even aware that you're doing this. I have to say this, Jai. When you were talking about part of your recovery being in the shower. Right. Now, shower water, when we're doing readings and things like water is emotions. And you have related to that shower in exactly that same way. So you've gone into the shower, you're releasing your emotions while you're in the shower. And then you've turned around and said, okay, when I turn this off, that's it. I'm going to let them all go now, get them out as much as I can. But as soon as I turn that off, I've got to change my mindset, and I've got to switch. And that's a tip like that. You don't realize that is such a good tip for somebody, especially for men, because sometimes they don't want to show their emotions. They can do it in the shower, and they can set themselves ready to walk out of that shower and know that they're in that good space. So I wanted to bring those two up. The other thing I wanted to actually say too is that your experience is not what I class a near-death experience. What I call your experience is a back from the dead experience.
Mm.
Now, why I say this, and I want to put this in there, and I'll slightly change our title and everything. And why I want to say it out there, because I did talk about a near-death experience. A near-death experience, when you have a near-death experience, you actually leave your body. So you actually leave your body, and a lot of people have experienced it. So when you're talking about flatlining, often people will leave their body and watch what's going on, and then come back in.
I had that.
That's what we class in the spiritual terms. That's what we class as a near-death experience.
Mm.
What you've had is definitely, I'm certainly not saying that you haven't been there, but I would call yours a back from the dead experience, because basically you were dead and you've come back. But
Yeah.
your spirit may have stayed with you and not left your body, because in my situation, other people's situation, they've actually left their body and they see what's going on, and they actually go further and then come back. So
Right.
I just wanted to say that, because a back from the dead experience is just as important, and you can see, well, just as important, you know what I mean, but you
Yeah.
can see and you are aware of the changes. So when someone's had a near-death experience, yes, they put those changes in place because they've experienced that. And when somebody's had a back from the dead experience, again, they're going to be putting those experiences in place. So I just wanted to jump in and say that, because I do want to hear some of the things that you've done now in
Mm.
going forward to help people that have experienced this, or have those. And look, it's life-changing moments. It's life-changing catalysts that
Mm.
if we don't grab that bull by the horn and chase it, we are just going to, unfortunately, experience something again the same way.
Exactly
So,
right. And yeah.
yeah. So
So
tell
just
us a bit more. Where did you go from there?
Yeah. So just to clarify that final piece of that experience, so I actually do have a moment where I left my body. So I don't know if this
Oh,
changes. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if this changes the category or not, because during that time where they told me that I was clinically dead, I actually do remember floating up and behind my body. And during that time, it was actually quite surreal, because I remember seeing all of the nurses around my body, and they were all frantic and they were all trying to figure out what to do. And at that time, I had a very deep sense of peace, and I had no emotion whatsoever as to what was happening. And I was not making any assumptions or judgment about what I was seeing. It was just I was in pure observation mode. So I was just observing the situation, and I wasn't giving it any meaning. And so there were no emotions attached to it. So I'm just watching. And I felt blissful. I felt like I was in a meditative state. And while that was happening, and I'm just observing, I started to hear somebody calling my name. And it was very, very faint, as though it was very far away outside of the room, beyond. And at first it was almost like a whisper, and it was just like Jai, like that. And then I was like, huh. And it was the first time that in that little experience where like I was almost distracted, or taken out of my bliss, or made myself think or something, because I heard my name being called, and then I was like, huh, someone called me. And then it happened again, and so they called my name maybe like 5 6 times, and every time I heard my name, I felt like it was coming closer to me and getting a little bit more clear. And what I was trying to do was tune into where it was coming from. And the way I can describe it is, imagine that you're in a swimming pool and you go underwater, and you're trying to listen to what's going on outside of the pool, people talking and stuff. It was kind of like muffled and distant like that. And so it was getting, and so the more I was like tuning into like, where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Then it was getting louder and louder and louder. And like the last jai was like quite close. And then it was just like a bam, snap. And that's when I jumped up and everything happened. So I don't know if that changes the
Oh no,
definition.
that is definitely it. And I'm glad I still said it, because some people do get confused with that. But you definitely had a near-death experience. That is
Yeah.
what it is. And what I really liked about when you said that there's no emotion, that is exactly right. The spirit does not hold on to any emotion. They don't judge, doesn't do anything like that. It's our physical side that does that, unfortunately. Um, But yes, that's exactly right. And it is that feeling of bliss. It's like it's such a weird, beautiful, but weird feeling. But yes, you have. I've had other people that I've interviewed, and they've talked about their near-death experience, and it was like, well, you actually haven't had one. You've very close experience with death. And with yours, you did flatline, so you did die and then come back. But when you talk about a near-death experience, it's exactly that. It's weird. Hey, it's very,
Very.
very weird. But you know you've had it when you come back and you change as much as you've changed. And
Yeah.
we're getting a little bit low on time. I want to hear about your changes and about your business, because I have got the ticker tape going, and it is because it's an online business. So it's sqifitness.com.au. It's an Australian
SQ1.
business. Oh, SQ1, sorry. Of course it is. SQ1fitness.com.au. It's an Australian business. Make sure you got the AU in it.
Yeah.
So you've come back from this experience, and you've said that's when your messages, your intuition started to really come into play. How is that different from before? Like, how did it feel different to you?
Yeah, there was no more second guessing. It was like, this is the way to go, and there's no plan B. And the difference was that I just acted upon it without doubting myself. And then to the point where I would make these huge life decisions. And then after I've made the decision, I would look back and go, holy shit, did I just do that? And then straight away, again, in my mind, it's like, yeah, you did. And that was the right thing to do. So keep going. And so, like, there's just this certainty that comes from it. And that's been the biggest transition, is that it's just like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it just comes in a moment, and the decision is made in a moment. And it's just happened over and over since then. So the first one was like, quit your job. It's not for you. It's not serving you. It's not what you need to be doing. It's not where you're at. Quit your job. So it was just like, bam, quit my job just like that. Started the fitness business, and just one thing led to another like that. And so, yeah, I started off doing the PT stuff. I wanted to own my own business, as I said before, so I didn't want to work for anybody. So I went into this fitness industry. I'd never worked in a gym before. I'd never had any experience in the industry. I'd never had a business before. I had zero upon zero upon zero experience, and it all worked out. And there's a level of hard work that was put into that and work ethic that was put into that. But at the same time, it was just this faith and this belief and this knowing that I could make it happen and that it was the right thing for me to do. And, going back to what you were saying before about how people do need a coach in order to push themselves. I think there's two ways. It's either you're going to get empowered by someone or you're going to get empowered by something. And usually that thing is like hitting rock bottom in order for you to turn around and say, well, the worst has happened. It's only up from here, which is kind of
Yeah.
where I was at. Or you can have somebody in your corner giving you the belief systems, giving you the mindset, giving you the confidence and saying, you can do this. Here's how, go for it. So that is definitely where, if people are in a situation where, like how I was, where they don't like their job or don't like their current situation in their life and they know that they need to change, but they don't know how, you've got to get yourself a coach because it's only going to get worse and worse and worse until you hit rock bottom. And then you're going to be forced to dig yourself out. And that is much harder to do than just investing in a coach. The thing is that most people don't have that confidence in themselves in order to make that investment because they think that they're not going to follow through or whatever it may be. But that's what the coach does. The coach holds you accountable. The coach gives you the resources. They give you the step-by-step blueprint so that you can achieve those things. And if you get a good coach, then that's what happens. And so that's kind of the role that I've been playing for people, is rather than letting people get into the state where I got into, where I've just hit absolute rock bottom, I try and step in beforehand and give them those belief systems and that mindset in order for them to make those changes before things get too bad. And that's sort of like the role that I've been quite good at over the last sort of decade, is filling that role. And I use my story as empowerment for them and motivation for them to say, look, this is what happened to me, this is what changed me, and this is my perspective. And then that kind of like really helps people to say, yeah, like I get that, and I need to make changes before my life goes down, that rabbit hole as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of like the path. And so what I do is it's a combination of fitness training, mindset training, and nutrition training, and it's all wrapped up in an online program. So I have a private app that I use, and I do over the phone and Zoom coaching calls, and basically just support people, all the way through. Like I'm constantly on the DMs with people. Like I live on my phone
Mm.
and my laptop, and I'm just constantly supporting people through that process of evolution and finding the faith and the belief in themselves, because we need that confidence booster. And sometimes the best confidence booster is from somebody telling you what the heck to do. Like, I mean, I've got a coach in my business. I have a business coach, and
Yeah.
prior to me having my business coach, I was lost as to how, because I transitioned from running a gym for a decade to starting an online business, and they are so different in how you operate them. So I really didn't know how to run an online business. I knew how to run a gym. And so I hired a business coach that specializes in online fitness coaching. And so he gave me the blueprint and the system to follow. And that's what gave me the confidence, because I knew that he had a program that worked for him, that works for his other clients, and that would also work for me if I put in the work. And so that gave me that confidence that I needed to go, no, do the work every day. It doesn't matter if it takes time. You just go through the steps every single day and it's going to freaking work. And that's what's happened. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the
The
value.
other thing too, Joe, I just want to jump in. The other thing too is there's two ways to be motivated: positive and negative.
Yep.
When you hit rock bottom, that's the negative way. And so,
Yep.
yes, you can be motivated that way. That's fine. You grab a coach, it's more of a positive way.
Yep.
If you don't want to grab a coach, that's fine. You just do the slide on out into the old negative. But if you can see that, okay, I'm a person that is motivated by the negative. So I can see now where my life is going and it's not looking good. I could jump in now and get a coach instead
Yes.
of waiting to the actual slide until you have nowhere else to go but uphill. And
Exactly.
that's what I think is really good. And that's what you're sort of referring to. So if somebody is sort of going, oh, I don't know, have a think about where your life could be going if you maintain the trajectory that you are on, and go, is that where you want to go?
Exactly.
Or
And that is a
yeah,
tool that I actually use with my clients. And this is a tip for everybody out there. If you want to self-coach, it's called future pacing. So what you do, so the thing is that most of us are driven more by pain than we are by pleasure. We're motivated more by pain than we are by pleasure. So what you can do is future pace yourself. If things aren't going how you want them to go in your life right now, then say to yourself, okay, 12 months time, 18 months time, 24 months time, if everything stays the same and I keep doing what I'm doing every single day, where am I going to be in a year? Where am I going to be in 5 years? What's my health going to look like? What's my weight? What's my bank account? What's my relationships going to look like if nothing changes and I just keep doing the same thing? Because you're going to build momentum one way or the other, and it's going to be towards the way you want or towards the way you don't want. So if you do that future pacing, that's something that I do with all of my clients to get them motivated, because I know that people are more motivated by being whacked by the stick rather than having the carrot on the stick. Like if you're riding a
Yeah.
donkey, there's only so long you can have that carrot going on the edge of the stick before the donkey's like, I'm never going to get this freaking carrot. So that's when you take that carrot off and you start whipping that donkey on the ass, and then it will move again. So sometimes we need that whip on the ass. And so by future pacing yourself, as you say, we can think about those negatives and where we're projected to go based on the activities that we're doing today, and that can help you to kind of rewire your brain a little bit and change your activities today so that you can chip away for a better future.
Wow, love that. And I love the donkey thing too. And look, that's the difference too with a coach. A coach will hold you accountable. A
Yeah,
mentor doesn't. A mentor gives you the information. It doesn't hold you accountable. And a facilitator will just give you the information. They don't care. They just sort of walk away.
yeah.
But a coach will hold you accountable. Now, if that's what you want to do, you got to talk to Jai. You really got to talk to Jai. But look, we're just about out of time. Couple of secs. I mean, I love that tip anyway. So there's really no other tip you need to give. But anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah, so I just think that a great perspective that people can carry forward if they're feeling motivated from this chat is to choose their purpose over their pleasure, because it's the vices that we go to, right? We go to these vices because we want them to make us feel good, but it's actually the vices that are holding us back. So if we can say no to those vices, that short-term instant gratification pleasure, and we can switch them for the purpose and choose that purpose over that pleasure, then we will get that long-term benefit and we will have that long-term progress in our life, which is way more gratifying than any short-term pleasure that you could ever think of. So choosing purpose over pleasure and making purpose like your driving force in your life.
Oh, love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show.
No worries. It was fun. I always love to chat. So it was great.
Don't go away. I'm just going to finish off. So, guys, jump onto Jai's website. Hang on. It is, hang on. Let me get the banner back out. It is sq1fitness.com.au. Don't forget that AU because it is an Australian business. So yeah, that was really cool. And I love that I could actually explain to people the difference between a near-death experience, which is what I did have, compared to sort of a back from the dead or a close sort of encounter with death. They're slightly different, but a near-death experience is when you actually leave your body. The spirit leaves the body, and that's what gives you this big aha moment, this big catalyst to change. The others do too. I shouldn't be sort of saying that, but sometimes they're not as profound as what a near-death experience is. So, and the other thing I do want to add, you do not have to have a near-death experience to have profound change. Jump on, grab Jai as a coach, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of changes that way. So that's what the beauty of it all is. But that is me for this week. Thanks for joining us on the show. Please share, subscribe, or like, and get your friends involved too, because we're learning so much here from all these beautiful guests we've had on. So that's me. I'm Susan Jane, and I'm going to say bye for now. See you guys.